"Stop, he's already dead." The fire chief's voice cuts through all the noise, but I don't look up. My hands stay pressed against this construction worker's chest. 18 minutes, no pulse, no breath, nothing. Around me, rescue workers are shaking their heads. Some are turning away. I know what they're thinking. There's that stubborn paramedic who can't accept what everyone else can see. But here's what they don't know. I learned some things in Afghanistan. 3 tours. Techniques they used in forward operating bases, where giving up meant watching good soldiers die. In their world, 18 minutes means it's over. In my world, it means I haven't tried everything yet. What happens in the next 90 seconds is gonna blow your mind. The call came through at 2:17 p.m. Structural collapse, Riverside Apartments, 4200 block of Platt Street. Multiple casualties. I was 3 miles out when dispatch upgraded it to a mass casualty incident. Tyler was driving. I was gearing up in the passenger seat, checking equipment with muscle memory that came from war zones where seconds meant the difference between someone living or dying. Through the windshield we saw the dust cloud first rising above Denver's buildings like smoke from an IED strike. My jaw tightened. For just a second, I wasn't in Colorado anymore. I was back in Helmand Province, running toward an explosion, dust coating everything, that smell of pulverized concrete mixing with something worse. "We're 2 minutes out. You good?" Tyler asked. "Yeah, I'm good." But my hands were already running through my trauma kit. Inventory check. The way soldiers do before stepping into danger. The Riverside Apartments used to be 8 stories of aging housing units getting renovated. Now the 4th and 5th floors had pancaked. Construction equipment everywhere. Steel beams sticking out of concrete like broken bones. Fire Captain Sandra Reeves met us at the perimeter, clipboard in hand, running the chaos like a pro. "Hayes Bennett, I need you in Sector 3, southeast corner. We've got confirmed victims." "How many trapped?" Reeves looked up. I could tell she recognized my tone. Someone who'd done this in worse places. "Unknown. Building management says those floors should have been empty, but we're hearing voices, at least a dozen workers unaccounted for." I surveyed the scene. Entry points, structural stability, load-bearing walls, exactly how I'd assessed terrain under enemy fire. Tyler noticed but said nothing. He'd learned that I see disaster sites differently than most paramedics. First rescue took 12 minutes. Maria Garcia, 71, trapped under a fallen door frame, conscious but fading, crushed pelvis. I stabilized her while speaking softly in Spanish, keeping her focused, keeping her fighting. "Stay with me, Mrs. Garcia. I know it hurts. I need you to stay with me." Maria's hand gripped my arm with surprising strength. "My husband, he's in 4C. Please, we'll find him. But right now, you gotta stay strong for him." We got Maria loaded, transported. 1 save. Second rescue was faster. Kevin Chen, 16, scalp laceration. Confused but mobile. I checked his pupils, asked orientation questions while bandaging the wound. "Can you tell me what day it is, Kevin?" "It's Tuesday. I was supposed to have math class." "You're gonna miss math. Lucky you." The kid managed a small smile despite blood streaking his face. 2 saves. Third rescue was Antonio Ramirez. Tony, 35, construction worker. Compound fracture of the right tibia, bone visible through torn pants. Shock but conscious, babbling. "David. Where's David?" We were right next to each other. "Who's David?" "David Torres. He was on the jackhammer when it came down. Southeast corner, 4th floor, under that beam." Tony's hand shook as he pointed deeper into the wreckage. Rachel and Tyler exchanged looks. "Southeast corner, 4th floor. The area Reeves had just sent us to clear. We found him 15 minutes later. Heavy lifting, rebar cutting into my gloves, concrete dust coating everything until I could taste it with every breath. David Torres lay pinned under a concrete beam. 28 years old according to his driver's license. Hispanic, fit, construction clothes covered in dust and blood, wedding ring on his left hand. Completely still. I knelt beside him, checked the carotid artery, nothing, no pulse, checked breathing, nothing, no chest rise, pupils fixed and dilated. Firefighter Jenkins checked from the other side, shook his head, no pulse at the neck, no femoral pulse either. Tyler glanced at his watch. Building collapsed at 2:47. It's 3:03. He's been down at least 16 minutes, probably longer if he was buried immediately. Chief Morrison arrived, heavy boots crunching on debris. He surveyed the situation with that look someone who'd made these calls hundreds of times. Hayes, we've got more victims in the west stairwell. 3 confirmed alive. We need to prioritize resources. I didn't move. Still examining David. Something about the debris pattern, the way his body was positioned. The beam had compressed his chest, but his head was clear, his airway unobstructed despite being buried. These details mattered in ways most medics wouldn't recognize. Compression looks localized to the chest cavity. No visible head trauma. Position preserved the airway. Tyler's voice came gentle but firm. Rachel, he's gone. We need to move to the living. But I was somewhere else, seeing another face. Different uniform, same stillness. Forward Operating Base Lightning, Kandahar Province, 2019. Lance Corporal James Wu, blast trauma, clinically dead. Everyone calling it. Then Major Derek Sullivan pushing through the crowd. Watch and learn. Martinez. Sullivan's hands moving in patterns I'd never seen before. Pressure points that shouldn't restart a heart, but somehow did. Wu gasping back to life after 14 minutes of death. The memory lasted 3 seconds. I blinked back to Denver. I looked up at Chief Morrison. Give me 5 minutes. Hayes. Sir. 5 minutes. The way I said sir, pure military respect wrapped around unshakable determination. Morrison had heard that tone before from combat vets, the ones who'd learned that impossible doesn't mean don't try. You really think there's a chance? I think he's only been down 12 to 15 minutes based on burial depth and injury pattern. I think his airway's clear. I think chest compression is specific, not global crush injury. And I think I've seen worse cases survive. Morrison studied my face, saw something there. Experience beyond my years. Knowledge that came from places civilians don't go. 5 minutes. Then we moved to the others. The technique, I positioned myself over David, hands on his chest, but not the standard CPR position. Lower, angled differently. Tyler saw it immediately. Rachel, what are you doing? Just time me. My hands found points between David's ribs, intercostal spaces 4 and 5, 2 inches lateral to the sternum, targeting the cardiac branch of the vagus nerve. Most paramedics don't even know those pressure points exist. I pressed, released, pressed again. Different rhythm than standard CPR. Slower, more deliberate. The crowd was growing. Word spreads fast at disaster sites. Other firefighters drifting over, EMTs, even survivors we'd already pulled out, all watching the paramedic who refused to accept what everyone could see. How long's he been down? 18 minutes now. She's wasting time, but I didn't hear them. My world had narrowed to the tissue under my hands. The rhythm Major Sullivan had taught me in a war zone half a world away. The knowledge that brought back Wolf for 3 days. Castellano for 5 days, and ultimately lost them both anyway. My hands moved in the sequence. Phase 1, neural reset. 15 compressions targeting vagal pathways, 60 beats per minute cadence. What is she doing? Some kind of pressure point technique. That's not CPR. Tyler knelt beside me. Rachel, this isn't anything we learned at the academy. Where'd this come from? Army Special Operations medical training, forward surgical teams. Sometimes the textbook isn't enough. I moved to phase 2, repositioning hands at the Zypin process. specific angle that mimicked sinoatrial node firing patterns, combining 2,000-year-old Chinese acupressure points with modern cardiac electrophysiology. The compressions looked almost ritualistic to observers, like I was playing some invisible piano, each touch calculated, each pressure point chosen. "This is ridiculous," someone muttered from the crowd. Chief Morrison checked his watch. 3 minutes gone. David Torres remained motionless. Blue lips, waxy skin, every clinical indicator of death. But I felt something, faint. Maybe imagination, maybe wishful thinking, maybe the beginning of what Sullivan called cellular memory, the body trying to remember how to live. I pressed harder. Phase 3, metabolic cascade, deep compressions to trigger sympathetic nervous system response. Goal was endogenous catecholamine release, the body's own chemicals doing what medicine couldn't provide. "Come on, your girls need you. Come on." "His name's David," Tyler said quietly. I didn't correct myself. In my mind, David and Marcus Chen and James Wu and Emma Castellano had all become the same person, the one who might come back if I just tried hard enough. 4 minutes. Chief Morrison cleared his throat, ready to call it. Then I felt it. A flutter so subtle, I almost missed it. Muscle fiber response, microscopic contraction, but present where seconds ago there'd been nothing. My head snapped up. "Tyler, advanced monitor, now." Tyler hesitated. "Rachel, I don't think—" "Bring me the goddamn monitor, Bennett. Now." Tyler ran, came back 30 seconds later with the portable cardiac monitor, attached the leads with shaking hands. The screen flickered, static, then a reading, flatline, then a spike. Tiny, a premature ventricular contraction, barely visible on the monitor, but unmistakably there. Electrical activity, where 18 minutes ago there'd been absolute silence. Chief Morrison took a step backward. That's not possible, but I was already moving. Phase 4, the dangerous part. My hands repositioned, building on the weak electrical activity, coaxing the heart to remember its rhythm. An EMT rushed forward with epinephrine. I administered it directly into David's chest. Precise timing, exactly 3 seconds after a compression cycle. "Come on. Your daughter needs you. Come on." The monitor spiked again, stronger this time, more organized. Not a rhythm yet, but moving toward one. 5 minutes became 6, 6 became 7. My arms burned. Sweat dripped into my eyes. My back screamed from the position, but my hands never stopped. 7 minutes became 8. Then David Torres gasped. The sound cut through the disaster site. Sharp, desperate. The sound of lungs remembering their purpose. His chest rose, fell, rose again. His eyes fluttered open. The gasp from the crowd was audible. Someone dropped equipment. Chief Morrison actually stumbled backward. Firefighter Jenkins crossed himself. Jesus Christ, how'd she do that? Tyler could barely breathe. Rachel, what did you just do? But I was already in motion. The impossible moment passed. Professional mask back on. I need a gurney. Oxygen. IV access. He's back but not stable. Move. David's eyes found mine. Confused, unfocused, afraid, but undeniably alive. I put my hand on his shoulder. Gentle, grounding. Don't try to talk. Just breathe. You've been somewhere you weren't supposed to come back from. As they loaded David onto the stretcher, Tyler grabbed my arm. His face was pale. 18 minutes, Rachel. He was clinically dead for 18 minutes. That technique. Where'd you learn that? I met his eyes. Exhaustion there, relief, and something darker, something heavier. Afghanistan, from a Special Forces medic named Derek Sullivan. I've only used it twice before. I paused, watched David being loaded into the ambulance. Alive, breathing. Impossible. Both soldiers died anyway. Lance Corporal Wu lasted 3 days. Private Castellano lasted 5. I brought them back from death just to watch them die slower. I walked toward the ambulance, left Tyler staring, left the crowd murmuring, left Chief Morrison shaking his head in disbelief. Inside the ambulance, I monitored David's vitals, blood pressure rising slowly, heart rhythm stabilizing, brain activity normal, every metric suggesting he should be dead or severely brain damaged. Instead, he was squeezing my hand, weak but present. The radio crackled, more victims found, more rescues needed. But my mind wasn't on the next call. It was on Jennifer Wade, 52 years old, middle school teacher, who we'd find in Sector 7 in 30 minutes. The one the technique wouldn't work on. The one who'd remind me that bringing David back didn't mean I could save everyone. The second partial collapse had exposed another victim. Jennifer Wade, pinned under a support beam similar to what had trapped David. But something was different. I saw it immediately. The angle of compression, the pattern of debris, the way Jennifer's body had been positioned when the building came down. Firefighter Jenkins was already checking vitals. No pulse, no breathing, no pupillary response. I knelt, checked the carotid artery myself. Nothing. Checked chest rise. Nothing. Pupils fixed and dilated. Tyler checked his watch. Based on witness statements, she's been down approximately 25 minutes. But the crowd around us was different this time. Larger, expectant. Word had spread about David Torres, about the impossible revival, about the paramedic who could bring people back from death. That's her. That's the one who saved the construction worker. She can do it again. I saw the video. I felt their eyes, their hope, their absolute certainty that I could perform another miracle. The weight of their expectation pressed down harder than any concrete beam. I positioned my hands on Jennifer's chest, felt for tissue response, and knew immediately something was wrong. The cellular damage was more extensive than David's, the internal injuries more severe, but the crowd was watching, waiting, believing. "Rachel," Tyler said quietly, "I gotta try." I began the sequence. Phase 1, pressure points between ribs 4 and 5, neural stimulation, vagal nerve targeting, the same pattern that had worked 30 minutes ago. But Jennifer's tissue felt different under my hands, less responsive, more damaged. 10 minutes passed, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. My arms burned, sweat dripped despite the cooling evening air. My back screamed, but I kept trying because the crowd expected it, because someone had filmed David's revival, because everyone believed I could do it again. 22 minutes. Tyler's voice came quiet beside me. "Rachel, her tissue damage is too extensive. I can feel it from here. She's gone." I knew he was right, had known it from the moment my hands first touched Jennifer's chest. The pattern of internal injuries, the severity of compression. Jennifer Wade had been unsavable before I ever reached her, but knowing that didn't make stopping easier. Not with 30 rescue workers watching, not with a crowd that believed I could perform miracles. 25 minutes. I finally stopped, sat back on my heels. Time of death, 3:47 p.m. The silence that followed was different from after David's revival. Heavier, disappointed, confused. "Why didn't it work? You saved the other one." I stood, legs shaking. "Because every case is different. Every patient is different. The technique doesn't work every time." "But you're the miracle paramedic. Everyone's talking about it." "I'm not a miracle worker. I'm a paramedic who tried a technique that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. This time it didn't." I walked away from Jennifer's body. The crowd parted, but their faces showed disappointment, confusion, some anger, like I'd promised something and failed to deliver. I made Tyler drop me at Denver General. I needed to see David, needed confirmation that he was real, that the revival had actually happened. David was in ICU. Dr. Walsh was doing rounds. She saw me coming, and her expression shifted, professional curiosity mixed with something like awe. "Hayes, I was hoping you'd come back. I need to talk to you about David's case." How is he? Walsh glanced at her tablet. Remarkably well. CT scan shows no brain damage. 0. EEG readings normal. Cognitive tests normal. Blood work normalizing rapidly. He should have massive cerebral hypoxia from oxygen deprivation. He should have neurological deficits. He should be dead. You mentioned that. Walsh set down her tablet. What exactly did you do out there? I read your report. Enhanced vagal stimulation, direct cardiac pressure sequencing, but that's not enough information. How's it work? Can you teach it? I looked through the ICU window. David saw me, waved weakly, mouthed thank you. 2 hours ago, I tried the same technique on another victim, Jennifer Wade, 52 years old, middle school teacher. She's dead. The technique didn't work. Walsh processed this, so the success rate's unknown. I've used this protocol 3 times total in my career. Once it worked, twice it didn't. That's not a technique you teach in medical school, Dr. Walsh. That's Russian roulette with people's lives. But David's alive. That's gotta mean something. It means David had survivable injuries and I got lucky with timing. It means Jennifer had unsurvivable injuries and no amount of technique would have saved her. It means I don't understand enough to teach this responsibly. I moved past Walsh toward David's room. Inside, David turned his head, smiled weakly. You came back. Wanted to check on you. Doctor said I should be brain dead. Or actually dead. She seemed upset that I'm not. Dr. Walsh likes things to make medical sense. You don't make sense. We sat quietly, shared understanding of having been somewhere between life and death. Can I ask you something? David said. Sure. When I was gone, I wasn't really gone. I could hear everything. The firefighters saying to leave me. My co-worker Tony crying. You arguing with the fire chief, saying you needed more time. David's eyes held mine. How'd you know? Everyone else said I was dead. How'd you know I wasn't? I leaned back. Rare moment of honesty. I didn't know, not with certainty, but I learned something in Afghanistan. Sometimes the difference between alive and dead is so small you can't measure it on monitors. You gotta feel it in the tissue, in the cellular response to pressure. I paused. I felt something in you, a potential, like a pilot light that hadn't quite gone out. So I tried a technique I'd only seen work a couple times before, and this time it worked. What if it hadn't? Then you'd be dead, like Jennifer Wade's dead, like 2 soldiers I tried this on in Afghanistan are dead. David absorbed this. My wife, my daughter, do they know yet? Hospital contacted them. They're driving from Colorado Springs. Should be here in about an hour. David's eyes filled with tears. I'm gonna see them again. Because of you. I stood. Too much emotion. Because of medical technique. Because of timing. Because of luck. Don't make me into something I'm not. I headed for the door. Rachel. I turned. Thank you for arguing. Thank you for those 5 minutes everyone said were wasted. Thank you for being stubborn enough to try when everyone else had stopped. I nodded, left before my own emotions showed. My apartment was 17 minutes from Denver General. Small studio, minimalist, military neat, few personal items, photos on a shelf, me in Army ACUs with my unit, Afghanistan landscape, one family photo facing down like looking at it cost too much. I sat on the couch without turning on lights. Against better judgment, I opened my laptop, searched David Torres' Denver collapse miracle, 247 news articles. Denver Post, miracle recovery, construction worker returns from clinical death. Twitter trending, Denver miracle, paramedic brought man back from dead from... I closed the laptop. My phone buzzed. Voicemail, unknown number. Mrs. Hayes, my name's Patricia Wade. You tried to save my sister Jennifer at the collapse today. I was there. I saw how hard you tried. The police told me Jennifer was already gone before you arrived, that there was nothing anyone could have done, but you tried anyway. For 20 minutes you tried. I just needed you to know that means everything to my family. Thank you. I closed my eyes. That message hurt more than angry ones would have. I got up, walked to the closet. Top shelf held a cardboard box. Army patches, deployment photos, dog tags. Underneath a folder, medical reports from Afghanistan. 2 of them. Patient, Lance Corporal James Wu, USMC. Following successful field resuscitation, patient revived after 14 minutes clinical death using enhanced vagal stimulation protocol. Patient survived initial resuscitation but succumbed to septic shock complications 72 hours post-revival. Patient, Private Emma Castellano, USA. Following successful field resuscitation, patient revived after 16 minutes clinical death using enhanced vagal stimulation protocol. Patient survived initial resuscitation but died during medical evacuation due to internal hemorrhaging 5 days post-revival. My handwriting on both reports. Recommendation protocol effective for immediate cardiac revival but insufficient for long-term survival in severe multi-trauma cases. Further research needed. Clinical language for unbearable weight. At 5 a.m., my phone rang. Area code 703, Virginia, Department of Defense. I let it ring through to voicemail. Waited, played the message. Ms. Hayes, this is Colonel Sarah Embaro, U.S. Army Medical Command, Walter Reed. I need to speak with you regarding your use of classified medical protocols on September 14th in Denver, Colorado. Please return this call at your earliest convenience. This isn't a disciplinary matter. We'd simply like to discuss the circumstances and potential applications moving forward. I stared at the phone. Knew I needed to call back. Couldn't, not yet. 6 months later, I'm standing in front of a classroom at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Looks exactly how I remembered it from my initial Army medical training. Sprawling facility, red brick buildings, parade grounds where dust devils spin in afternoon heat. But I'm not a sergeant anymore. I'm a civilian contractor about to teach classified protocols to people who've already seen combat. The classroom's small, 12 desks, whiteboard covering one wall, anatomical diagrams of the vagus nerve already posted, cardiac pressure point charts, and one diagram I drew myself showing the phases of Protocol 77 Bravo. The students arrived at 0800, 12 of them. Army ACUs, name tapes, ranks, ages ranging from 25 to 40, all former combat medics. All with that look, people who've seen things civilians can't imagine. I stand at the front. Civilian clothes but military bearing impossible to hide. Morning. I'm Rachel Hayes, former Army Sergeant, combat medic, 3 tours Afghanistan. I'm here to teach you something that'll save lives and haunt you. I pause. Let that sink in. Anyone want to leave now? No one moves. Good, because the technique you're about to learn comes with weight, and if you're not prepared to carry that weight, you'll break. So we start with honesty. I click the remote. Screen behind me displays Protocol 77 Bravo, enhanced vagal stimulation for cardiac revival. Success rate 30%. That number 30% means 70% of the time, even if you do everything correctly, the patient stays dead. This isn't a miracle cure. This is a last resort protocol with more failures than successes. I scan the room. Anyone got a problem with those odds? Lieutenant Martinez in the front row speaks up. Ma'am, if success rate's 30%, isn't that better than the 0% we have when we call someone dead? Yeah, but that 30% comes with a cost. Let me show you. Next slide, photos of James Wu, Emma Castellano, Jennifer Wade. These are the people I failed. Wu, revived, lived 3 days, died from sepsis. Castellano, revived, lived 5 days, died during evacuation. Wade didn't revive at all. Unsurvivable internal injuries. My voice stays level, clinical, but the weight's there. I carry them every day, their faces, their families, the hope I gave that turned into prolonged grief. Next slide, David Torres smiling with Maria and Sophia. This is David Torres, 22 minutes clinically dead, full recovery, no brain damage. Here's why I'm teaching this course. I look at each student. But understand something. Torres doesn't erase Wood, Castellano or Wade. Successes don't cancel failures. You carry both, always. Sergeant Parker in the back row speaks up. Then why teach it, ma'am? I meet his eyes. Because David Torres has a 5-year-old daughter who still has a father. Because sometimes 30%'s enough. Pause. Now, who's ready to learn? First week was pure technique. I demonstrated on medical mannequins, my hands finding pressure points most anatomy texts don't mention. The vagus nerve runs from brainstem through the neck, past the heart to the abdomen. Controls parasympathetic nervous system, heart rate, digestion, respiratory rate. When someone dies, the vagus nerve shuts down. Our goal's to restart it. I repositioned my hands on the mannequin. First pressure point, intercostal space between ribs 4 and 5, 2 inches lateral to sternum. You're targeting the cardiac branch of the vagus nerve. Too high, you'll bruise lung tissue. Too low, you'll miss the nerve cluster entirely. Students practiced. I circulated, correcting positions. Martinez, you're too high. Lower there. Feel that slight resistance? That's the nerve bundle. Martinez's face showed concentration. Ma'am, how do we know we're in the right spot? There's no feedback on a mannequin. In the field, you'll feel it. Tissue resistance. Electrical potential manifests as a subtle flutter under your fingers, like muscle memory trying to activate. Parker spoke from across the room. That sounds subjective. It is subjective. That's why this technique requires experience. You develop tactile sensitivity. Most medicine ignores. Week 4 brought different training. Circle of chairs. Dr. Lisa Torres, civilian psychologist, specialized in military trauma, facilitating. This week we discuss survivor's guilt and moral injury, inevitable if you use Protocol 77 Bravo in the field. Rachel, you want to start? I sat forward. When I revived David Torres, I felt relief, validation, proof the technique worked. But when I tried it on Jennifer Wade, 30 minutes later, and failed, that relief turned into guilt. I looked at my hands. Why Torres deserved to live and Wade deserved to die? Logically, I know it was injury patterns, tissue viability, medical variables, but emotionally, I felt like I chose him over her. Dr. Torres nodded. And how do you carry that? I remind myself I tried. That trying matters even when it fails. That Jennifer Wade's family knows someone fought for her till the end. But mostly, I carry it because there's no getting rid of it. You just learn to live with the weight. Corporal Davis, 26, quiet till now, spoke. I had something similar in Kandahar, IED strike, multiple casualties. I triaged, prioritized the ones I thought could make it. Left one guy, he was conscious, talking to me, but his injuries were too severe. I moved to someone I could save. His voice cracked. He died alone, calling for his mom. I can still hear him. Several students nodded. They'd all been there, made impossible choices, lived with consequences. I stood, walked to Davis, put my hand on his shoulder. That's what this training's about. Learning the technique's easy. Learning to live with the weight, that's the real skill. I left for Colorado Springs one weekend. David Torres had invited me, 1 year after the collapse. I needed to see if the miracle had lasted. The house looked the same, toys in the yard. David answered the door, looking healthier than I'd ever seen him. Rachel, come in. Maria's making dinner. Sophia's been asking about you. Inside was comfortable family chaos. Sophia, now 6, doing homework at the kitchen table. Maria cooking, completely normal, completely impossible. How you feeling? David gestured to himself. Perfect health. Cardiologist says my heart functions normal. No deficits, no complications. I go back to work next month. Desk job. But still. Sophia ran over. "Are you the paramedic who saved my daddy?" I knelt down. "I'm the paramedic who helped him when he was hurt, but your daddy saved himself by being strong." Sophia hugged me, fierce, then ran back to homework. Over dinner, David asked about Texas. "How's teaching going?" "Exhausting. Teaching's harder than doing." "They good students?" "Very good. Former combat medics. They understand trauma. They understand weight. But I still wonder if I'm preparing them enough." After dinner, we sat in the living room, Sophia in bed. David spoke carefully. "Rachel, I've been thinking about something, about why I survived. Not just the medical reasons, but what it means." "What do you mean?" "I think the reason you saved me has less to do with technique and more to do with refusing to give up. That's what you're teaching those 12 soldiers, not just where to put your hands, but how to fight when everyone else has stopped fighting." He leaned forward. "And you're teaching them when to stop fighting, when to accept that some battles can't be won. That's not just medicine, Rachel, that's wisdom." Maria added quietly, "Every month, David sends you those photos. Sophia's birthday, her first day of school, Christmas. That's not just gratitude. That's proof that what you do matters, that the weight you carry creates life." My eyes watered, but I also carry Wu and Castellano and Wade, the ones I couldn't save. David nodded. "And you should. That's the cost. But look at Sophia doing homework. Look at Maria and me planning our anniversary trip. This exists because you carried that weight and tried anyway." I stayed till late, drove back to Texas under stars, thinking about weight and wisdom and 12 students learning both. 1 year after that, I'm sitting in my office at Fort Sam Houston, Director of Advanced Trauma Response Programs, wall covered with photos, my students, their saves, their units. Reports come in from the field. Martinez used protocol in Seattle. Earthquake success, victim survived. Davis attempted it during North Carolina hurricane, failed. Unsurvivable injuries, but Davis handled it well. Chen saved a pediatric patient in Texas. Parker's in Afghanistan teaching new SF medics. The knowledge is spreading. Responsibly, weight shared. Tyler enters. He'd applied for the program, been accepted, now works as my assistant instructor. Director Hayes, next class starts in 2 weeks. Ready? Don't call me director. I'm a civilian contractor. Fine. Rachel, next class. 47 applicants. We're accepting 12. I look at the applications. I'm terrified, same as last time, 'cause I'm about to teach 12 more people to carry weight that never gets lighter. Some'll use this protocol and fail. They'll have to live with that. I'm responsible for preparing them for something no one can be fully prepared for. I look at Tyler. So yeah, terrified, but ready. Tyler sits across from me. "Can I tell you something? That day at Riverside Apartments, I thought you were crazy, refusing to accept reality. Now I think you were the only one who understood reality isn't binary, that dead and alive aren't always clear, that sometimes the difference is just someone who refuses to give up." He gestures to the photos. "That's what you're teaching, refusal, and that's worth the wait." I look at David Torres's photo, updated family picture. Sophia, now 7, all 3 smiling. "You ready for the next class?" "Are you ready?" "I'll never be ready, but I'll do it anyway. 'Cause somewhere out there right now, someone's dying who might be savable, and if we don't teach the people who could save them, that death's on us." Heavy responsibility. That's the point. If it wasn't heavy, it wouldn't matter. Somewhere in America, at that exact moment, an emergency scene's unfolding. Paramedic arriving. Cardiac arrest victim. Clinically dead. Everyone saying to call it and move on. But the paramedic kneels anyway, checks vitals, feels for tissue response. One of my graduates, Martinez or Chen or someone from the second class, the paramedic's hands find the pressure points. Begin the technique I taught. The crowd watches. Skeptical, expecting nothing. But the paramedic's been taught more than hand positions, been taught to feel for possibilities others miss, to fight when everyone else has stopped, to carry weight whether it works or not. Protocol 77. Bravo's now taught at 7 military medical facilities worldwide. Success rate remains approximately 30%. To date, 847 patients have been successfully revived using this technique. Each one represents someone who refused to give up and someone who carries the weight. For the 70% who couldn't be saved, we tried. That matters. Somewhere, I'm teaching 12 new students how to reach into the space between life and death, teaching them the technique and the burden, the hope and the heartbreak. The weight never gets lighter, but it's shared now. And sometimes that's enough.